you want more?
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Good, good. I've been trying to figure out a way to get you on something. I know it seems like you're so eclectic and everything that it's hard to kind of pin you down to a particular genre, but I figured this was the best way, being that we cover anything. I mean, we'll cover country music if we need to, but it's more broad, let's say. So how would you describe your sound, first of all?
Well, at my core, I'm a rock artist. That's where my core is, I guess, the best way to put it. I've been doing this for a couple of decades, and I came up as part of this American rock cult band called Nitro, and that was a really focused mission statement. So that was drums, bass, guitars cranked to 11, as loud, as heavy, as snarling, and as strident as we could muster it up.
Right.
And that was fun, and did that for a long time. So that's really my core is rock. But I, like you, I also have an interest in all kinds of music. But this genre that I'm known for is predominantly rock, and I love it, and that's where I feel most comfortable. But I reserve the right to do other stuff.
Right. So, because it seems like you can inject just about anything in there. Because I know the tune "All the Freaks," it almost has like almost kind of like a Cheap Trick vibe to it. I don't know, I don't know if you've heard that before, but it just does have this kind of Cheap Trick vibe to it. It's almost like a power pop, influence, let's say.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, and I'll take that all day long. I love Cheap Trick, and I'm a huge fan of pop music. Even though my core is a rock artist, boy oh boy, do I love me some Beach Boys and bubblegum pop from the '60s. I like current pop music, it's not so much One Direction kind of stuff, but I really like stuff like Taylor Swift and Charlie Puth and that kind of stuff. Really love that. Beatles, geez, that's part of everybody's DNA, and really I got a heavy dose of that. So I wanted to infuse that particular record, Mobocracy, with a lot of pop overtones. And again, reserve the right to do other stuff. I'm making a record now that's just about finished, and it sounds like Black Sabbath meets Jimi Hendrix with a little bit of Beach Boys thrown in on it.
So it's going to be
a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like another eclectic mix of stuff. So that should be pretty interesting, when you throw on something like the Beach Boys, who have those distinctive harmonies and stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, and a lot of it is when I was seeking out a producer, a good friend of mine, Electric, who produced Mobocracy and Blunt. He has a lot of pop sensibilities. So those vocal arrangements, even though, I had to go in and execute a big chunk of them, he and I constructed those together. So in big part, the pop sensibility, the pop feel of the songs like All Freaks definitely comes from him. And although, I, in my ham-handed way, told him what I wanted to do, and I pointed to Queen and Beach Boys and Beatles and pop record from the '60s and said, love the Monkees and that kind of stuff. Give me some of that. So that's what we worked on.
How do you go into like sequencing something like this? Because obviously you have to have some kind of a formula. You don't just throw the songs and just go, let's just see where they all land, right? Because you have to. There's a start point and an end point. And how much effort did you have to put in the whole sequencing of this thing?
Well, it kind of fell together. I like all folks that do kind of what I do, we overwrite. So there were a bunch of songs that didn't make the record, and what happened was they started to reveal themselves as the sessions progressed. And basically, you want to start out with something that kind of gets people's attention, and then end with to take it on a bit of a roller coaster ride. So that's the best way to put it. You know how the roller coaster rides, they start out kind of calm, and then they give you something to really jack you up. And then they'll mellow you out a little bit, and then they'll throw a little interesting twist and turn in there, and then all of a sudden give you something at the end to take home. So that was what I was trying to do. That's a weird metaphor, but we always kind of saw it as a roller coaster ride. to answer the question real specifically, they kind of sequenced it, the record sequenced itself. I knew I wanted the tune Black to be the very last thing because I knew I was going to do Blunt next, so I needed that connective tissue. So, and a rock record is what I was trying to do there, with a lot of pop and some industrial and some thoughtfulness in the lyrics. So I wanted something aggressive to lead off as well, and that's how the sequencing happened.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned industrial, because that, the very first time you sent any tunes over, that's the one thing I picked up on. It's kind of got, it had somewhat of an industrial influence as well, which, I think when I think industrial, always, my first discovery as far as that subgenre was like Ministry and like 9 Inch Nails, and then Skinny Puppy and bands like that. So I mean, there's some cool industrial bands that came out in the 80s for sure.
Well, 9 Inch Nails, helmed by Trent Reznor, and Trent's a fellow Pennsylvanian.
Mm-hmm.
He and I were born in the same sort of general area of PA.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We weren't neighbors, but he was, we're all from that central chunk of the state. I'm not saying there's anything in the water there or anything like that, but when 9 Inch Nails came out in the 80s, I was like, whoa, this is very cool. It's aggressive, but it's not typical 70s bluesy based stuff. This is different. And when I wanted to make Mobocracy, I wanted it to be a heavy record with these elements of industrial sonics to it. And Electric, the producer, he was, not only did he bring that pop sensibility, but he also brought that industrial sensibility to it as well. So he was certainly my go-to man on that record, and is credited with translating my ham-handed instructions into what I wanted to do, but it was deliberate.
Right. And the title, what's in the title? I mean, I guess I could speculate, but it just seems like it probably goes with the current theme of the times, where there's that mob mentality or something, huh?
Exactly. Without being too arty-farty about it, I kind of wanted the songs to show me where they wanted to go. So I was writing a bunch of stuff, and these songs kind of coalesced and were a telling of the times. And the times felt like they were going to be aggressive, and everything was kind of going sideways. There was some anger going on, not just in the U.S., but all over the world. So I have to be honest with you, Ruben, whenever I was kicking titles around, and as soon as I landed on the word Mobocracy, the hair on my arms stood up, and it still kind of does. Right. So that's what it wanted to be. And, it describes that time between when I was making the record, between 2015 and about late 2019, early 2020. That's what it felt like. It feels appropriate. Maybe I'll make other records like it. Maybe I won't, but that's what it wanted to be at that time.
Yes. And this is I mean, again, the original release was 2020, but now you you've released a deluxe version, so the supersized version of Mobocracy, in 2022, and it actually, you just released it last Friday, right? So it's fairly fresh. And tell me about the deluxe version. I know you threw in some different mixes and some acoustic demos, which is wild to hear, the demos on some of the material there.
Right. So what I wanted to do was pretty simple. First of all, I know it's a little tough to translate here but Electric Talon came to me and said, we had quite a bit of success with Mobocracy, and because of the economic times, we weren't able to do any physical release because we were in the pandemic. So we held off on that. And then I wrote Blunt sort of at the end of Mobocracy, and they're related thematically. Sonically, they're dramatically different. So we had two records: 2020's Mobocracy, heavy rock with some industrial stuff and speaking of the times. And then I followed it up with a split that we called Blunt. And there were some songs that were related thematically, but they wanted to be different sonically. They were all, I kind of see them all as the same projects, basically. But they were two separate releases for all kinds of reasons. That said, Electric Talon said, hey, let's do a physical release. And what would you like to do? It sounds like those two records need to be together. So that's what I did, is we brought all of the Mobocracy songs. We brought all of the Blunt songs, put them together, which is where they're supposed to live. And obviously, we wanted to make it unique and different. From a creative standpoint, I wanted to give the folks that are interested in my work a look at some alternate mixes of some familiar songs as well as some demos, because I have to be honest with you, I love that kind of thing, and that's what I would be interested in. So some cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're onto something as far as like, I think, the average person would say, hey, why are you buying another version of something you have? But, I'm kind of a sucker for that kind of stuff. Like, whether it's like something like some of those White Snake boxes and the Black Sabbath boxes and Queen reissues, it's like they always add bonus stuff. And it's like, man, I got to have it. Even if I'm not going to listen to it, but maybe a handful of times, I got to have it just because I have to hear it. And there's always cool stuff that goes along with that, in terms of like having this physical product versus just streaming,
Right.
So,
well, there are a couple of ways to look at this. First of all, I want everybody to know that this is no money grab for sure. I'm here to tell you, we all know nobody but the big artists make any meaningful amount of money at releasing music. That world is gone. It ain't coming back unless you're Taylor Swift. So, and I understand that. My goal was simply creative, and at the prompting of Electric Talon, who said, let's get some physical in some folks' hands that want it, because like me, I'm the same way. I will go and I'll buy physical product, even though, for instance, vinyl, don't listen to it a lot, but I'll buy that if I have I literally last Saturday, one of my favorite bands, American band called Crowbot, Funky.
Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
They were playing in Philly, and I even because I like them so much, I went and I bought some of their stuff because I wanted to support them. So that's my way of showing my love. That's what I hope people will do, and that was really the main reason for it. And if I extrapolate that a little bit further, this guy is a sucker for Bob Dylan, the bootleg series.
Geez.
Bob, and we all know that Bob, they repackaged poor Bob 1,000,001 times. Most recently, the Beatles Revolver Deluxe. Love that. I haven't gotten it yet, but that is on my wish list.
Yeah, there's always stuff on that never-ending list, it seems like, right? And then as you creep into the holidays, new reissues are coming out and stuff. So yeah, you're right. So as far as promotion for this, I mean, you just sent me a video for the Freak Boutique, right? That must be the new video, I think, right? So tell me about the video first of all.
Well, first of all, it's that song appeared on Blunt and was kind of pushed to the back because there were other songs that we did videos for, not for any other reason, but because we just kind of did it in that sequence. So it felt to me as if I wanted to do something, and I had a concept and a video in the pipeline for it with my my video pal, my partner in crime, Alex Wagner, who's an American filmmaker. So Alex and I got together and put this together. And I have to be honest with you, Ruben, it's a bit of connective tissue for what's coming next, meaning that this way that these visuals are hopefully going to lead into what I'm doing next, which is kind of trippy and heavy and psychedelic a little bit. So maybe we'll get a little bit more out of that. That's what I'm feeling now. And Freak Boutique is a pretty cool song that I wanted to make sure that we gave it some life. It means a lot to me. I think my people that are my audience really responded to it, and I've been asked quite a bit about if I was going to be doing a video for it. So it was a natural candidate.
How much performances do you get out and about on any given time? I mean, is that something where you just maybe do weekends, here and there, or how do you get out and about and perform some of this stuff? And how do you do that? Because some of this stuff, it's like, I don't know how he does it, but if he does it live, that'd be cool to see for sure.
Well, there's let me unpack that. First of all, playing live. Yes, I get to do that. No, haven't done it since the pandemic for this record. And the last part of that answer is I have been in rehearsals the past month or so with my band to whip the set into shape of all the Mobocracy and all the Blunt tunes and stuff that's unreleased. So we are planning on doing that at the beginning of 2023. I know there are folks out there that are doing it now. That's just not
Sure.
anything we wanted to do. What that looks like, well, first of all, stepping back a little bit, 50,000 foot view. I've been playing live. I've been a performer since the late 70s, early 80s. So I know how to do that, and I love to do that. And I feel like my life isn't complete unless I do that a little bit. So from the time I was with Nitro until last weekend, I seize every opportunity I can at any place around the world. I'm not exaggerating because I travel a lot around the world to busk. And busking, for those that don't know about it, is live without a net on the street with a guitar.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Nobody's there to see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I busk all the time.
Okay.
And full band will be getting together. Right now, we're rehearsing this really interesting thing just to finish off the answer to this question, which is what's it going to sound like and how you're going to do it. I kind of took my cues. If people know how Neil Young and Bob Dylan do their sets, if you're going to hear the record, that ain't what we're doing. So I'm interested in reimagining these tunes in more of a heavy, more aggressive, sort of punky, raw kind of thing, simply because that's how I'm feeling it right now. I'm making a record that's kind of like that, and the live performances, I sort of want to do that. And we've been rehearsing these songs, which are more aggressive, edgy, more strident, and so we're not going to go try to replicate the records, not because we can't, it's because we don't want to. You know, you can do anything on stage these days with enough people and enough computers. And this is going to be a live, raw experience. It's going to be edgy, and that's going to start in 23. And I've got 4 pieces, 2 guitars, bass, drums. I'm out front hacking away on a rhythm guitar, and I've got a crew of guys. Some were on the records and some weren't. And these guys are really good, and we're going to have a fun time. And boy, will we be shouting those dates at the top of our lungs when they are arranged.
Right. So you're saying you would reimagine these songs then, it sounds like, huh?
Yeah.
So are you saying that maybe we could hear you guys bust out like a reggae version of All Freaks or something? I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing that off the top of my head, but would it be something like that where you guys would put like a different spin to it like that?
Yeah, well, an example is this. If you, for instance, Freak Boutique, and there's the other tunes that were on Blunt were all organic, no electric instruments at all. They were tribal, they were sort of ethnic and mysterious and sepia toned, I guess. I got a little touch of synesthesia, so they were the sepia toned kind of things. And they were a different animal sonically. So I know we've been rehearsing those, and they sound more like the stuff off of Mobocracy than they do off the stuff like Blunt came at us. So there's no, it's mostly straight ahead rock with with sort of a punk twist to it, if you will. So we're blending those kind of things. You're not going to hear us doing a samba version of Victorious, that's for sure.
Maybe that was
there's anything wrong with it, you know.
No,
I
right,
love a good
right.
samba like anybody else.
Yeah, right. What's behind the name, the moniker, the Wax Mekanix? I mean, what's the story behind that? There's got to be a cool story behind that.
Well, I'm not sure if it's cool or not, but I'll give you the truth. So I started with this band Nitro, this American cult rock thing in the early 80s. And that was more like, if people want a reference point, it was kind of like Metallica. So we were coming up at the same time. It was all this British and American rock filtered through our American lens, and all that stuff is in there. So I was the drummer there and one of the primary songwriters. And you'll look at the back of the records and you'll see the drummer is a guy named Tim Wilson. And that's my name. So my mom and dad, Fred and Judy, gave me that name.
Right.
And then when I started to do stuff outside of Nitro, to help me to step outside of that and to get out of my own way and to think differently, I landed on a persona and a name that sort of felt right, and it freed me up sort of intellectually and creatively. And I landed on this name, Wax Mekanix. Why? Because it sounded it appealed to me, appealed to my ear. So I figured if it was good enough for Bob Dylan, if it was good enough for Ringo Starr, if it was good enough for Elton John, if it was good enough for Freddie Mercury, if it was good enough for Eminem and anybody in the hip hop community, it's good enough for me. And that's why I did it. to sort of get out of my own way creatively, and to free me up. And it helps me to write differently. And Nitro was a democracy, which had a really focused mission statement, and that's what I was doing there as Tim Wilson, and I have a specific role in there, and I love that. And that converges and diverges at different times. So you probably haven't heard the last of Nitro. But then whenever I do my own stuff as Wax Mekanix, the solo stuff, that's pretty much a dictatorship, and I like to swing that authority around, and it helps me to do that. And I do write differently solo than I do for Nitro, for sure.
So in a way, I know you referenced Nitro and kind of the heavier direction of that particular band and stuff like that. So in a way, is the new music that you're recording kind of reconnecting with that heavier side?
The short answer is yes. There's no attempt to, in a classic sense, to reconnect. I never abandoned it. I was never disconnected from it. It's always there. If anything, I reconnect with the other organic stuff. Like if you listen to Led Zeppelin 4, which is a big deal for me, Zeppelin 4 has these really heavy things on it, like Four Sticks and Rock and Roll and Black Dog, and then you'll have stuff like Going to California, which is all acoustic and mandolin. So I have all of that in me. And if I tried to do anything, it was to sort of tread that breadth and depth of sonics. Now, I can't do that in Nitro because that's not what we do in Nitro, but I can do that for sure with my solo work, and I kind of did that. You've got stuff off of Mobocracy like, let's see, Blood in My Eyes or Mad World, and that's balls out, all heavy-duty rock, guitars, bass, and drums. And then the last tune that I have on that record is called Black, which is all acoustic, and it's mysterious, it's a little ominous, still thematically fits, but sonically is different. And that's really exciting to me. That's a real three-dimensional experience as far as I'm concerned. And the new stuff is just me following these tunes where they wanted to go, and they wanted to be heavier, they wanted to be edgier, they wanted to be trippier and psychedelic. Now, I never was a huge fan of psychedelia. I like Pink Floyd and, the Iron Butterfly like anybody else, and some of the hip hop folks were dabbling in it. But that was never a big part of my diet. And these last couple of tunes that I started cutting, that I'm finishing up, they really want to be that. So I haven't mixed them yet. Just finishing up the recording within the next few days, and then we'll go to mixing, and we'll see how that works out. But that's where it feels like they're going.
Nice. Well, I just got a couple more things. I know you referenced pop music from the 60s, the 70s, and then even current. I mean, I know you mentioned Taylor Swift. What's your favorite pop band, let's say, from the 80s and 90s? Because we missed those two decades.
Well, people may not know him specifically, but I really like Adam Schlesinger, which is the guy from, oh my gosh, now I'm drawing a blank. I got it right on the tip of my tongue. Oh, geez. Guy wrote the song That Thing You Do for the Tom Hanks movie.
Oh, right. Okay. So I think we would know that. Yeah.
So he was in, I know this band like the back of my hand, and now I can't put my finger on it. In any case, Stacy's mom, who wrote that? Fountains of Wayne, for crying out loud. What am I doing? Fountains of Wayne, the New Jersey band.
Yeah, there you go. That's who it is.
Yeah, so Fountains of Wayne, they did all kinds of cool records like Hey Julie and Stacy's Mom and Hackensack, just beautiful pop music. My favorite pop song of all time that I love, will always love, this says it for me every single time. A perfect pop song that will not be surpassed in my lifetime is There She Goes by the Laws.
Okay. Yeah.
I love that. Lee Mavers, dude said, making one record and I'm out of here.
Right.
They made one record. I love that song. Oh, it's better than anything the Beatles ever did, in my opinion. And I love the Beatles.
Right.
And Lee was in the 90s. So I would say Lee Mavers and Schlesinger, I think. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So Fountains of Wayne, love that. Stacy's Mom, I mean, who doesn't love that song?
Sure.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of those tunes that even if you don't know who performs it, you've heard it. You know?
Right. I had a brain fart with the Fountains of Wayne thing. I've got
Right.
all their records. I don't know why.
Well, I
In any
get that
case.
from time to time too. Oh, well, this is fantastic, man. Hey, well, thank you for your time, but I got to end with the big question. It's a very important question. It's the one that we were originally going to talk, I think, on Halloween, but you had some important business to take care of and hand out candy. The
Yeah,
question here is, what's the best costume you saw, you know, as these kids were knocking on your door and trick-or-treating that night? What was the best costume you saw?
Well, I'm a super sucker for Harry Potter, and there was this little
Okay.
guy. He was about 4 years old, and he came dressed to the nines.
Right.
He had everything, including the haircut. He had the little mole on his face. The glasses were perfect. He had the scarf. He had the robes. He even had the shoes. And this guy, he not only did he come dressed like that, but he also had this little tiny British accent he was trying to put on. And it was, I about passed out because it was so cute.
Wow. That's going
so
all out, huh?
Yeah, he said trick or treat in a British accent. The guy's like 4 years old. My wife and I were hanging out, handing out candy, and I almost fell over. It was just so cute, beyond belief.
Well, are you sure that was an adult? It could have been a small adult.
It possibly could have been. You're right. No, this guy was, you could tell he was just adorable. To melt your heart, and it was so cute.
Nice.
And picture, I only regret not getting a photograph of him because I was just so stunned by him. And then when he opened his mouth and said trick or treat with a British accent, I about fell over.
Yeah. Well, hey man, thank you for your time. I think usually I'm like, well, we're going to tell the publicist and the PR folks and get you links, but you're doing all the work. So we'll get you the link and everything, and then you can pass it along and we'll throw it up on the internet. And, we want to talk again, I think, once you get this other music out, because it sounds definitely very interesting, kind of like the stuff that you did on Mobocracy. So fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be heavier and snarling, and I want to make sure before we go. I don't know if we have to go soon. Yep. I really appreciate what you do. Thank you so very much for having me.
Yeah,
I can't overstate that.
Yeah, no problem, man. I was just trying to figure out the right place to put, your interview and talk about your music, because it is different than how we have websites that are just kind of like, we do this here, we do that there. This is the heavier stuff. This is the glammy stuff, and it's like, well, I got to find the right avenue, and I think we found it. So we'll get this online and get the link out to you, and we'll take it from there.
I appreciate you. Keep doing what you do. And thank you so much for being so generous with me.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and we'll talk again. All right.
Thanks, Ruben. Take care.
Take care.